All right. Hello, everyone. I am Jen Radke. I'm just going to jump right in. I know we want to save times for Q&A, and you guys had some good questions for Patricia just a minute ago. So first, RJ, thank you for having me. Everybody, thank you for staying up and alert and awake. Real quick, a little bit about me. If I can get my slides moving. So I am the CEO of the National Institute for Social Media, and recently announced that I'm also the CEO of Online Marketing Certified Professionals, or OMCP. These two organizations do certification for marketing and digital marketing and social media professionals across the globe. But I am so much more than that, and you guys were just talking about personal versus professional. So I'm a mom of two. My oldest is a freshman down at Texas A&M. Go Aggies. My youngest is starting her college visit journey. Oh my gosh, she's a junior. I am from Minnesota, and I'm going to embrace the Minnesotan fully at this point in my life. I was social media strategy certified in 2014, long before I became CEO. That is something that I have continued to carry and love the fact that I have. Strategy for me is something that is just so vital in all aspects of what we do. And social media, it really isn't any different. I do have a master's degree in organizational leadership. I do speak and teach, and I've also had the absolute pleasure of becoming an author by putting together the cover that you see on the right, Stories for the Social Side. It's an anthology of advice from marketers to marketers that came out in 2017. And I'm hoping we can do a version 2 here shortly. So that's just a little bit about me. We're going to talk about social media strategy next. And I just really love this quote. It came out of the NISM social media job study from 2019. And the content really was that strategic planning is the blueprint for success and growth for your brand. It is the most important thing aside from implementation. And I like that last little part, because we can plan all day long, but if we never implement anything, we're not going to get anywhere. But if we continue to implement without ever making a plan, we're also going to never get anywhere. And so it's really important for us to think about the strategy behind what we're doing and why we're doing it. A couple of fun facts and why should we even consider social media? So first of all, there's some global data. Now, I was super excited to see that in 2023, We Are Social has partnered with Meltwater. Historically, they've been with Hootsuite and several other organizations to put out a global social media report. So you can go to the wearesocial.com blog to get their digital report for 2023. But I've grabbed just a couple of things. So first of all, what's going on in our world? So there are just over 8 billion people. 5.5 billion approximately have access to a mobile device. Again, about 5% have access to the internet, and just under 5 billion are active on social media. This just gives us the global perspective of how many people are utilizing digital technologies across the globe. Of course, in urbanized areas, that becomes greater. But it's really important to remember that your audience is using digital technology in most cases. When we dive down and we look at social media specifically, we get to see some interesting things. How often they're on social media. What has the change been in year to year? So there's been a 3% change in the last year of people utilizing social media, which I'm actually surprised about. I was not shocked during COVID to see these numbers continue to creep up, but I figured that the number would start to level out or creep back down as we started to get back into somewhat of a normal, I hate that word, but external process, being outside again and doing things in our communities. But that number continues to creep up. The amount of time that we're spending on there continues to creep up. What is interesting to me, though, is the top one on the right, which the average number of social platforms that are being used has gone down slightly. And so people are getting a little bit more selective about where they're being active online and where they're engaging. All of this to just really say that we need to be thinking about where our audience is and how we can best communicate with them, right? Why? Well, businesses need to spend time where their customers are spending time, right? Even when we're talking about our personal brand, we as individuals want to be where other people like us or that we want to connect with are spending their time. The same thing happens with your business brand or your nonprofit organization. Social media also provides us one way to reach more people utilizing, in theory, less time and less money. It helps to level out the playing field for small organizations or nonprofits or individuals, right? We have the ability to reach the same kind of masses via social media. We don't have to spend, $5 billion or whatever a Super Bowl ad is these days in order to get traction or visibility, build awareness. Okay. So we need to think through, where are our customers? Where are they spending time online? And how can I be present in ways that are useful? For each of our organizations, those questions look differently, right? So if you're doing this for yourself, you might have slightly different objectives. But if you're doing this for a business or organization, here are a couple of key things that you might use social media for. Now, the first one that I've listed here is not sales. It's listening and doing some analysis. So listening to the market, perhaps to your consumers, maybe to your competitors, what's happening in the industry in which you reside, and use that information to really put together strong data about how your business can better meet those needs, right? Or service those customers. Second is sales. And you can flop those around, it doesn't really matter, but it is valuable for people to be able to utilize social media in an e-commerce type of way. We want to push people towards making a purchase or committing to a service agreement with us. So that can be useful for businesses and organizations. I've separated marketing out, right? Because marketing is how we engage with our prospective consumers. We maybe build brand awareness. We maybe cultivate loyalty over time. There's lots of different things that marketing does to support sales, listening, customer service, customer experience. But I want to make sure that people realize they are different, but they should always work together, right? We should not all be doing things in individual silos in our business, but we don't have to utilize all of these use cases either. Some businesses might find it best to utilize social media for human resources, things like attracting talent, right? Hiring. Maybe it's customer service. Maybe the goal is not to generate more sales, but to properly handle the ones we have. Service those folks that have made a purchase so that we can adequately onboard them into our organization and make them happy for the long haul. I recently bought a new mattress. I mean, how old do you have to be to get excited about a new mattress? But seriously, the bed is smarter than I am. It's a Sleep Number bed. So it connects to the Wi-Fi, and I have to have an app on my phone. Sure enough, I needed tech support, right? So the mattress could be fantastic, but without the ability to use it and have customer service, I would have had a very poor customer experience. And social media can add to all of these different areas by allowing us to tell stories that help our customers make decisions, to tell stories that help our community come together and feel comfortable about what it is that they're doing or supporting. It can help increase or improve the way in which they engage and interact with us. There's just so many different opportunities for businesses that we need to stop and think about, what is our goal, right? How do we want to utilize social media? We're going to talk a little bit more about goals in just a second, but before we do, I just wanted to share some other fun statistics. So I'm hoping you can read this one, but one of the things that I really like about this report every year is that they take a look at the main reasons that people are identifying why they use social media. And it isn't always the reasons we think, right? Now, these are people who are self-selecting, so they're probably going to say things like, I want to keep in touch with friends and family right away, which is top, of course. But it is interesting to see that news is the third highest reason for people to go to social media. If your organization is a leader in the industry, is a news outlet, or has a story to share, this could be very helpful for you in understanding and knowing. Most executives who have not yet bought into a social media strategy will say that no one goes on social media to buy anything. But this report tells you with number 6 and number 7 that that is not true. For number 6, people are going there looking for inspiration of what to buy. So here we're thinking about what are those creative ways that we can inspire people to add a value to their life? What is that? What would that look like? And then number 7 is actually purchasing products. People are going to social to purchase. If we dig down a little bit more, we get into some of those maybe more personal touches or engagement pieces that I definitely love. Networking is 10th on the list, connecting with other people. Doing work-related research is 12th. But consuming branded content from the brands we love is 11th. So in the top, 15 things that people are spending their time on social media for, purchasing products and engaging with brands is there several times. And that's really, really valuable to note. Okay. Another thing that I want to share quick, because I often get, and I know not from this group would I get this feedback, but from a lot of organizations I hear, oh, it's just the young ones that are doing that, right? The older ones are not purchasing. Well, here's a breakdown into the percentage of social media users who are visiting in order to learn about brands and their content by age and by gender. And so you can see that, yeah, of course, there is a higher number of younger professionals that are utilizing social. But when we get over to the 55 and 64, you're still seeing 41% of females utilizing social to engage with brands. It is not just the youngest people out there that are utilizing social media, especially ones that are utilizing it for brand engagement. Okay. So what are some of the ways that social media, in addition to kind of the reasons you would use it, what are some of the benefits that it can provide your business? One is it can provide social proof. If you are trying to sell something and people want to know more about you, they're going to look online. And if you have no social presence across any social platform, this may be a downfall. I know for me, I get pitches, probably a couple of dozen a day. And if they are interesting enough that I look them up, the first thing that I do is Google the company name. And I look for social media platforms. Yes, I want the company website, but anybody can create a website. I want to know what people are talking about them. I want to know about what they are sharing. What kind of knowledge do they actually have that they're giving to me? Or are they just completely selling something constantly? Social media can drive website traffic. So if you've been tasked with the goal to increase website traffic, social media might be one of those great referral partners for you. Social can help increase SEO. I know that if you search Jennifer Radke, my social platforms are going to be some of the first things that will pop up. You might also get the National Institute for Social Media, but you're going to first see LinkedIn, maybe Twitter, perhaps even Facebook. It does increase your SEO. Now, it doesn't mean you should be on every social media platform just because of search engine optimization. It just means that it is a potential benefit to consider. Social media traditionally costs less than some of our other more traditional marketing channels. So purchasing ads, or ad space, I should say, printing materials, direct mail, things like that. It can create new opportunities for engagement, really connecting not only with potential customers, but with past customers, current customers, past employees, current employees. The opportunities there are endless. You can reach a really diverse audience with social media, something that's harder to do when you are doing more traditional efforts. Geographically, you can only go so far, right? But with social media, we can be in all places all the time. I spoke earlier this morning at a high school here in Minnesota, and I'm with you all right now, and we are not in the same state, right? And so there's some opportunities for us to reach a more diverse audience. I mentioned this one already, connecting with potential and current customers, creating business opportunities. And this doesn't just mean sales. Business opportunities might be collaborations that you have with other organizations. It might be collaborations that you have with a potential influencer or a leader in your space. We've mentioned already increasing customer loyalty. It can be a great way. I know you've likely heard this before, but it warrants repeating. It is so much more cost effective and time effective to keep your customers than it is to find a new one. So keep them coming back, keep them engaged. And one way that social can really do this is by allowing us to humanize our brand. You can share stories about who works there, or the mission, the vision. What is it that this organization is doing? Really small sidebar and piece of vulnerability for you all today. I mentioned I was at a high school here in Minnesota earlier, and I forget almost always to take a selfie. And my social media person gets kind of frustrated with me about that. But there was a tip that I had given in the class that seemed to really resonate with this class. And that was about camera location settings on your phone, not just social platform settings, but camera location settings. And so I just did a quick Instagram story sharing that, 45 seconds of information with others. I don't love doing that. I don't do it very often, but I already have received feedback that people really loved seeing me do something that was totally not scripted, not polished. It was me sitting in my car, right? Giving a, hey guys, here's a tip I wanted to share because I just came out of this really cool class that resonated, right? That allows us that humanization piece and really allows us to get to know the people behind the brand. Okay, that's totally enough on the why. I think you're with me now, right? So how do we get started with strategy? And this is usually the piece that people get confused about, right? A lot of times when people sit down and say, okay, Jen, I need to know my social strategy. Should I be posting on Facebook 4 times a week or 4 times a day? What does that look like? And I have to round them back or wind them up and say, well, first of all, that's a tactic, right? Not a strategy. Let's start at the beginning. And the beginning is, what are your business goals? If you don't know what the business goals are, you cannot effectively do your job as a marketer. You need to understand why we're pushing certain products, if we're doing a new product release, if there's an update. I mean, there's just so many different things that we really need to make sure our marketing team understands, and it starts with goals. Now, knowing the business objective is great because that allows you then as a marketer to set your social media goals. And we really encourage that you use the SMART formula. Some of you might have heard of this before. There are other acronyms out there as well, but we really like this one. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Most of the time, when I ask students to give me an example of SMART goal, they will get 1, maybe 3 of these things, but not all 5. And it's really important that we get all 5. Some of the things that are most frequently left out are measurable, time-bound, and relevant. Relevant is because we don't always know what the organization's goals are. So let me give you a quick example, okay? So let's say we all work for a new company. It's called Splash. Splash is a shoe company, okay? We've been around for 3 years, 3 years now. We're just starting to make a profit, okay? Our leaders have said to us, we have 2 needs. One is we need to kind of grow within the mainstream market. We just need to get random people who do water sports to buy some of our shoes, right? And the second one is to grow within the water athlete market, okay? We want to really focus on those people that are spending time, maybe it's surfers or swimmers, getting them some footwear to make their time in the water more enjoyable, okay? So we're going to want to create SMART goals that would support or reach a deep end, as well as, support or reach a new audience, as well as dive deeper into the market of water athletes. And then you build KPIs or key performance objectives afterwards. So I'm just going to give you one kind of follow-up. So if we took the deeper dive for a second, we could create a SMART goal that says we want to increase visibility among the water athlete market. So we're being specific, right? Saying what we're trying to do and who. We want to do it by 25%, which is measurable, from Q2 to Q3, which is time bound, right? And again, we want to do that on Facebook. So adding a little bit more specificity and allowing us to really reach that relevance, the overall objective of our business, right? Now, the one thing that we can't know right now, because we don't have all the data in front of us, is whether or not that is achievable. Is a 25% from increase from Q2 to Q3 actually realistic? Well, we're going to take a guess that in this case, it is, because we're only 3 years old. So if we spend some time focusing, we might be able to increase our reach there, but that would be something you'd really want to look at. From there, we're going to want to break down KPIs, again, to be pretty specific. So we want to increase those Facebook followers, those people that have an interest in very specific water sports. And we want to be able to look at that month over month. So instead of waiting for the entire quarter to be over, we want to look at that month over month, or maybe every couple of weeks, in order to make sure that we're moving towards our target and making adjustments along the way, okay? If we don't have goals, we don't know where to start, right? A lot of people, like I said, like to start with those tactics, but really understanding our goals is the first step. The next step is to understand who our audience is. So I grew up in the Midwest. Minnesota has a lot of farming communities here. And this terminology or phrase we use a lot is, you're being clear as mud, which means I don't understand a thing that you're saying to me. Because we all know that mud is not clear. And if you don't know, let me know and I will take a picture and send some, because we have a lot of mud right now from melting snow. But if you don't know who your audience is, you are again going to spin your wheels to achieve your goals, right? So we have to do some diving into who really is our audience, and what do we want to know about them, or what do we know about them? The first and the most obvious is, who are we trying to reach? And this might include things like age, geographic location, marital status, educational experience, but it also can include some of those psychographic things. What are they into? As is the case with the Splash shoe company, we want to know that they're interested in water sports, right? So for your organization, who are those people that you're trying to reach? And be really careful not to make it clear as mud. An example most of us can relate to is real estate agent, right? If you ask a real estate agent who is their ideal client, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hear them say, anyone who wants to buy or sell a house. Well, that doesn't really help me make a decision, right? I can't immediately think of people who want to do that because it's so broad, right? But if we instead have an agent come to us and say, I'm looking for empty nesters or soon to be empty nesters who want to downsize, and I really work well in XYZ market. Now, all of a sudden, we might know people, right? They might be friends or family that who are looking to do just those things, right? Their kids are going off to school and they want to downsize. So be very clear and segment your audiences into target groups that really are clear and make it easy for you to know who you're trying to reach. Then you can figure out and do some research about where they are spending their time online. It isn't about what platforms we love, unfortunately. If it was, well, I would never be on TikTok if that's the case. It's not a platform that I spend a lot of time on, right? But it isn't about me. It's about our audience. So where are they? And do they want to engage with you there? That last one is hard. We might have to ask them, right? Like we might have to go back and ask some of our best clients. If we were on, XYZ platform, would you want to talk with us there? And if so, what would that conversation include? Because helping to understand what they're looking to get out of it is important and valuable. Snapchat is one that I use as an example here. Many people are on Snapchat, but many people do not actually engage with brands all that often on Snapchat. And so is that the best use of your resources, right? But if they do want to engage with you, how? What does that look like, right? Is it in a customer service fashion or a sales funnel fashion? Then you can, oops, I think I skipped a slide here. Let me just go to this next one. Understanding your brand comes next, right? So you know who your audience is. Then you want to know, who are you? What problem do you solve? Not just your features and benefits, but what's the real problem that you solve? How do you help your customers be the hero in their own story? And then, what do you want other people to know? Okay. What is it about your organization that allows you to solve that problem? Or what is it about your organization that might build trust among your consumers? Do you have a persona or a brand voice that you need to keep in mind? Then you can start to think about, okay, what content could I be putting out there or would best fit the brand persona and help me share what it is we do for others? Does that match the preferred platform of our audience? A lot of times we're trying to push a square peg into a round hole, right? By saying, this is the content that's best for my business, or it's easiest for me to create, but we're putting it out on platforms that really aren't resonating with our audience. And last, but certainly not least, we have to ask ourselves, what resources do we have? Can we actually take on all of the things we want to do in our strategy or to achieve our goals? Okay, that's why focus becomes super important. Focus in your audience, focus on your goals, focus in the platforms that you choose. Okay. So after we've looked at some of these things, then we get to go in and talk about social media platforms. Where should we actually be doing these things online? When we choose platforms, we ask ourselves some of the same questions that we did before, right? Is our audience on here? Do they want to talk to us here? What type of content is best here? Is this even the dominant platform in our industry? In the last year, especially, There's been a lot of people who have created platforms that are meant to take over Twitter, right? I'm not going to get into a political debate about Twitter, but there are platforms out there that are meant to mimic that. Well, do those platforms have the dominant presence with your audience or in your industry? If they do, then jump. If they don't, then you might have to listen to where your customers are, right? And definitely learn the functionality of these platforms. If your platform allows you to do video and that fits your content and your audience needs, then that's what we should be doing with that platform, in addition to other types of content that you might want to put out. Okay. So let's look big picture for a second, because again, I don't want to get yet into the tactics of which platform should I be on specifically. I want to look at the different types. There's blogging platforms or micro-blogging platforms. Examples of these might be WordPress or Twitter. There are others. Social networks that are out there, like Facebook or LinkedIn. They are different, even in their same category, right? Most of us would categorize Facebook as kind of that friends and family network, where LinkedIn is a more professional network, but they are still both social networks. Photo sharing, things like Instagram or Pinterest, video sharing, YouTube, TikTok. You could argue some others fit in there as well, but I'm just giving you examples. Audio sharing, Clubhouse, podcasts, Spaces, social Q&A, like Yahoo Answers or Quora. There are others that fit in here too. There are, and it escapes me today, but there is a social media platform that is meant for high school athletes to talk about their athletic training and their athletic competitions and all things to do with high school athletes. And it's very popular. And if that's where your audience is and who your audience is, then perhaps that's something to consider. Okay. So we should choose our platforms based on those things that we know. And then we can't stop there and just dive in, because a lot of times our maybe gut reaction, or maybe more appropriately, our leadership says, okay, do it all, right? Just do it all. We need to be all these places and do all these things. But the reality is we can't. So we have to make some decisions about prioritization. And things we should consider in our resources bucket is time. Do we have time to take on some of these additional strategic goals and implement them? Not just, time to create video, but the time to edit and publish and schedule and all of those things with it. Do we have physical technologies that we need in order to get it done? So let's say one of your initiatives works out to be adding video. Well, do you have a physical camera or a light or a microphone that'll allow you to capture some of those things that you need to produce something of decent quality? And I'm not saying polished or 100% professional, because authentic is super true and very, very on point right now. But do you have the basic things you need? Okay. Do you have the software? That might be project management software if you have a team, right? Or if you're using vendors to help you with certain pieces. What does that project management software look like? And it might be an Excel sheet, where you're tracking, or a Google Sheet where you're tracking deliverables and by whom and by what date and where they are in progress. But a lot of times we want to have something a little bit more formal. We might need scheduling software or editing software. There's lots of different pieces that we have to think about in our resource bucket. I added human capital separately because not always do we think about the fact that, Susie or Fred already have a full job, right? And yes, they might be fantastic at doing videos for us, but what does that mean? Do they have the capacity to add anything more to their list? Do we have the human capital to accomplish these things? Or do we need to hire someone? Or maybe Susie and Fred are not skilled to do the things that we want them to do. And so we need to invest in perhaps bringing in other individuals to help us. Do we have the multimedia devices that we are looking for? Do we need to bring in vendors? And if so, do we know who they are? Have we vetted any? Because that's going to take time and money and human capital. What kind of budget do we have, right? A lot of times we're asked for a budget, but we haven't gone through all of these other pieces to really look at it. We say, well, ads are going to cost us $500, dollars a month. Well, that's great, but how about the time it takes to produce that, the software it takes to edit that, the talent that it takes to actually shoot the video, those types of things. So when we're doing social media strategy, we have to start kind of back, right? Looking at those goals and objectives, creating a plan, understanding our audience and our resources, and then we can jump in and really attack those tactical implementation pieces. All right, so I just threw out a lot of information. I would love to know what kind of questions you all have about any of that or other areas of social strategy. And RJ, you're totally on point. All social is paid one way or another. I like to break it out a little because we forget.
Yeah, it was actually it was John Steven that posted that today on his Twitter account. He basically said all social is paid, even if you're not paying for ads. There are still resources, human capital, all of these other assets that go into creating that content.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a great point, especially when you're dealing with social media managers or not social media managers, excuse me, managers of social media managers that don't understand how the work is done.
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, it is our job to help educate them because we know, right? Or we're supposed to know. So we have to help educate them to say, no, we have to stop and think about this. We have to stop and realize that, Fred does not have the ability to sit in front of a camera for whatever reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe stage fright, who knows? Or Susie can't edit videos that's outside of her talents and scope. It takes her twice as long as somebody else. Those types of things.
I'm curious if there are folks in the room that are interested in or see social media management as being a part of their job now or future career, future job. What's your position on social in your work, folks? If any. For freelancing, it'd be vital. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where some of that personal branding comes in too. What does that look like for you? Well, Sophia's looking into it. Jolene. I'm curious, what is it that excites you about social?
Or not, maybe
not,
some
yeah.
of you are not interested in it.
And the Evelyn, I don't know if the hyphen makes it short or longer, but I love that you're using Instagram to share your work and connect with other people. I'm assuming what you have is something that's very visually appealing, and that's great.
Yeah, I think all of us, if you're not doing it now, personal branding is something that you will be doing, especially when you're going to embark on a career or you're finding an internship or really just trying to make a name for yourself. You have to have that presence. So if, Deanna, to your point, if it's overwhelming, try to find the one or two things that you're going to get the most out of it. So in your case, it's sharing your work and getting feedback. And I would say, to an even bigger point, like kudos to you for being willing to put your work out there for open critique by any kind of jerk on the internet. And of course, consider the sources when you're getting that feedback, but I think that takes a lot of courage and strength to be able to do that. So good on you.
Absolutely. I think it does. And maybe I'm the only one in the room that thinks this, but that's okay, because I've been told I'm a little crazy sometimes. But you can kind of filter out some of the random stuff by making sure that you're really targeting your audience and sharing your feedback with the right people, maybe on the right platforms. A good example is if I share a whole lot about my work on Facebook, nobody cares, because the number of people that I'm connected to personally, right? The number of people that I'm connected to that do marketing and social media is very small. It's a lot of family and friends, maybe local community people. And so if it's something exciting, like, the acquisition of a new company or something that all of us want, like how to take better pictures with our iPhone, huge feedback and fantastic response. But if it's all about things like social media strategy or personal branding, most of them they don't want anything to do with it, and maybe even a little naysaying on it. So depending on the work that you do, you might be able to kind of filter out some of the negativity, depending on where you share it.
Sophia says here, I like monitoring engagement on my accounts and experimenting with what does better and has more impressions and what doesn't. Okay, so we've got a diagnostician here. That's great.
It.
I enjoy making content that gets more engagement.
And I love, so you've used two words that I think are super important. You've said impressions, but also engagement. And I'm curious what kind of the end result is there. And does it vary, right? Like, are you just looking for people to really love on your stuff? Or are you wanting them to comment or go to a blog or purchase something? What are those pieces of engagement that you're really looking for? We all want to make content that people like or engage with, right? But I will say that probably 75% of the content that I put out on my personal pages kind of flops. And then I get something that's really great and resonates with people. It doesn't mean they're not seeing the other 75. They're just not engaging in the same way.
Jen, I actually have a perfect example for you using myself as a case study. So I could put out like, I hit some career milestone and I put it up and, it's something I'm really excited about. And for whatever reason, between the lack of interest and the algorithms, working against me, I'll get like maybe 10, maybe 15 likes. But the second I put up a post recalling a memory of my daughter making fun of me, just like really cutting deep, it'll get like 200 likes and like 100 comments, and the engagement is through the roof. And once again, this just reaffirms that my social accounts only exist to promote my daughter.
She is very worth promoting.
Yeah,
I agree. No, and I looked at that for LinkedIn for myself in the last month. I've had a couple of different things happen. One was I was working a lot on Fridays to promote folks in job search because I was just getting inundated with people who were looking, most of them in marketing or digital technologies. And so I thought, well, I have a fairly decent network. Let me see, right? So I would do a Follow Friday post and I would tag 5 or 6 of those people saying a little bit about what they're looking for and encourage people to connect. The first one that I did was huge. The number of impressions and engagement rate was off the charts. So I did it for 4 or 5 weeks after that. And then I just simply was gone and crazy with stuff. But it was higher engagement rate than when I took over and posted the press release about us taking over an OMCP. So certain things resonate, and lifting other people up, which is something I value. So it wasn't off brand at all. Definitely resonates a lot more than sharing an article or a press release.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is a huge thing.
And did you see that Twitter, their algorithm was released and basically you get like 30 times the return on posts that have likes, not retweets, not anything else, but it was just hearts. So if you heart a
Just hearts,
post,
huh?
it'll get 30 times the value of repeat in the algorithm, essentially, which I thought was really interesting versus like retweets and comments. Comments actually got the lowest.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. There's always new things. And there was some stats that even folks were sharing about LinkedIn. Links will kind of penalize you X%, and reshares or reposts will penalize you X%, but comments will engage by this much, or video over images. And so there's so much, and I'm sure it's all somewhat subjective until we get the actual platform engineers who write all of that stuff to actually tell us exactly what they've written in there. It's going to be very difficult for us to guess because time of day plays in and all of that. But yeah, it's kind of crazy what people find to be most valuable. But I love that you're looking at that, Sophia, and monitoring the quality of the content you're putting out there.
It's that sort of tactical approach that will resonate with companies, that especially when you're looking for internships or you're looking to get a job, like you can tell them, you can story tell with them in an interview using your own personal accounts and say like, yeah, I took this diagnostic approach and I increased the engagement on my own personal stuff. And then you can apply that to those corporate accounts that you might manage someday.
Absolutely. And we didn't talk about it today because an hour is a lot, not a very long time to talk about all the different aspects of strategy, but you should be measuring your success towards those SMART goals that you put out in the KPIs, and those measurements, right, show up in the form of analytics and reports that should alter or affect the next step of your strategic plan and how you move forward. And so it should be a consistent circle, always setting goals, implementing and measuring and adjusting.
Yep. So Jen, I don't know if you covered this, but could you do a shout out for the certification and like the scholarship applications? I don't know when they're due or for, but seems appropriate.
Absolutely happy to. So the National Institute for Social Media has a social media strategy scholarship. So first, let me tell you about the certification. The certification is in social media strategy. It covers 6 main areas: strategic planning, so a lot of what we just covered and talked about. Compliance and governance, what to do and not to do. Ethics was something you mentioned earlier, RJ, and so that's definitely a piece that plays into that. Marketing communications, that's where some of that content that Patricia has been talking about fits in. How do you create good headlines? What does that content look like? How do you create a theme or a calendar, something that's valuable and beneficial? Project and campaign management comes into that. Online community management. So yeah, you got an audience. Now what, right? How do you handle crisis? And then last but not least is the research and analysis portion. So it covers those 6 different areas. We do offer a scholarship 4 times a year. Our next scholarship is due, and I was trying to pull it up and then I got lost in my talking. So I want to say it is due May 15th.
Okay.
Yes, it's due May 15th and awarded before June 15th. And so those scholarships are typically partial. We want students to have some skin in the game, but they can be anywhere from 25 to 90% of the preparation package or exam option that students are looking for.
Cool. Okay, well, I unless anyone else has any questions, I think we're good for the evening. So yeah, Maya asks, is there a link to this info?
The scholarship info I will put here now. And then if you want like slides or anything else, let RJ know and I'll be sure to have it and happy to get it out.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to facilitate connections here. Cool. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, then we can go ahead and conclude for the evening. Thank you again, Jen and Patricia and Nora, for your wonderful presentations. I know these are going to get repeat views, so such excellent content. And, you know, I want to thank the National Institute for Social Media, of course, for being such a great partner to AMA Pittsburgh over the past year or two. You guys are fantastic collaborators, and I'm looking forward to what the future brings. So
We are as well, RJ. Thank you.
cool. Thanks, Jen. So you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you for your attention, and go out and enjoy the nice night weather here in Pittsburgh.